Hello, welcome back to the Coach to Confidence podcast. On today's episode, it's just myself again. If you haven't already, go back and watch the previous episode with my lovely second coach, Taylor. It was so fun having her on. She is currently on holiday, or I would have invited her back, and we'll hopefully do one in the near future because it was great to have her. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. We enjoyed doing that episode. There was a lot of rambles and probably some less helpful parts, but there was also a lot of helpful things, hopefully. On today's episode, I'm going to be running through my current results, progress, the photo shoot I just did, thoughts, feelings, all of the above. I'm kind of using this as like a virtual diary, so it's going to be very raw, very honest, very open, but I think I personally, so that's why I'm doing it, really like hearing from people that look like they have their shit together or look like they're perfect, and then actually realising they are just human and there is nothing that they've achieved that I can't achieve. I find that very inspiring. So in today's episode, we're going raw, we're going honest, we're going, telling you the truth. I think I've spoken about it a little bit on my Instagram, but Instagram's very limited. There's only so many captions you can put in a how many words in a caption? I don't know what the word is. And there's only so much you can talk through. So this is me going more in depth. First of all, I have obviously spoken a lot about my previous history, and for those who aren't aware of it, very, very, very brief summary. I was very overweight as a child, struggled with what I now know was binge eating a little bit, and I was bullied really badly. This turned and spiraled into the opposite. I lost 5 stone in a year and went from overweight as a child to, at the age of 14, getting hospitalised and diagnosed with anorexia. This is something I suffered with relapses and kind of better parts for 6 years or so. Had my last and worst relapse at university, was incredibly ill and told I probably, my organs were shutting down. It was not a good time. Found the gym, which actually, ironically, honestly saved my life from a mental health standpoint and a physical one as well. I started to gain weight in a healthy manner. I got my period back, and years of therapy and all of this. So I've been in some form of therapy pretty much on or off for the last decades, maybe a little bit longer. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of talking about how you feel. I'm a fan of being open, honest, and communicating that. And I'm a fan of working on yourself, because it's something you're never going to stop doing. And I love when someone invests in coaching or invests in myself or Taylor, because to me it's them taking charge of their life, and it's them saying they actually deserve to make a change and feel better and all these things. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about what I do is because I've struggled for so long. Like, I was not built in the body that I felt comfortable in. I definitely suffered with my body image and relationship to my body and all of these things and food for, like I said, well over a decade. Now, the last few years, kind of a more recent history, obviously I'm in a good place. I wouldn't be coaching, I wouldn't be doing this job if I wasn't. I'm in a great place. I don't obsessively weigh myself, I don't have restrictive behaviours. I would say, like, day to day, I have a very, very good and strong relationship with my body and food. However, this last photo shoot has been a challenge, and it's something I wanted to talk through because I guess I'm trying to also work it out myself and why it was. So, like 3 years ago, I did powerlifting. That was kind of my main focus. I did some powerlifting competitions, loved it. It was very focused on strength, not my physique. And I loved that. It was great, and it was really healthy for me at that time because it didn't matter what I looked like, it just mattered what I lifted, which I loved. And then I kind of fell into bodybuilding, which actually, again, at the time, really served its purpose, and I actually really enjoyed it. And I'd never trained for aesthetics, I think, because I was worried about my previous history and maybe relapsing because of that. So I kind of steered away from aesthetics and, stuck with the strength stuff. But actually, bodybuilding taught me that I have so much more discipline than I felt. And my therapist at the time, I remember speaking to her about this, and saying, like, I am almost too lenient on myself because I'm too scared to go back to where I was. I find it quite hard to diet. I find it hard to be strict with myself because my relationship with my body is so good. I don't want to restrict my calories. I don't want to count everything. I don't want to be overly strict. And I think once you've suffered with food in the past, or your eating disorder or relationship with food, it's quite easy to go one way or the other. Always feel like the second you diet, you go too extreme, and that's always a trigger. And for me, it was the opposite. I found it really hard to be on it and focused. And so the bodybuilding prep really taught me that actually I could diet and I could push myself and I could do lots of cardio and I could eat not a lot of food, but it wouldn't spiral into anorexia, and that to me was really empowering. Post bodybuilding, I suffered a bit with body image. I suffered a little bit with it wasn't binge eating, and it definitely was not binge eating disorder like it had been before, but I think I definitely almost rebelled a little bit. Like, I didn't want to then weigh everything again. I didn't want to train as hard and do as much cardio, so I obviously gained a bit of weight. Again, nothing crazy, was probably a healthy weight to be gaining, but I suffered with my body image. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. My dog is barking at something. I don't know what he's barking at. Probably nothing. He likes to bark at the mop, or I don't know what he's barking. You probably can't hear this. I'll keep talking. Rex, you're ruining the podcast. Bless him. And yeah, I suffered a bit with my body image just because I was in a heavier body. Now, since that show, and I don't regret doing it because I think it was part of my journey, and I'm one that really, even the highs and the lows, I try not to regret because it's part of the process. But I've definitely, since then, always felt bigger. I've always felt heavier. I've never felt lean, and I wouldn't say I've felt very good. Now, I have felt alright. My body image for the last year and a half has been fine. Like, I mean, I'm quite good at being fairly neutral with my body, but it has been that. It's been neutral because I saw myself with these abs, and I saw myself on stage with the tan and the hair and the bikini, and everyone was telling me, you know, random people in the gym would come up to me and tell me how good I looked. And obviously that stopped because I just looked like an average person after that. So it was a real adjustment, and I think I definitely suffered with that. Probably more than I realised. Now, lots of my life has changed since then. I've got a partner and a dog, and my work is different, and so many things are different. So my lifestyle that now is not comparable to the one then. But this is a caveat. Anyone who thinks about doing a bodybuilding competition, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, because I firmly believed I was, because I've always, even when I was suffering with food and my relationship with food, I've always had an interest in bodybuilding, and my friends have done shows, and I have best friends do shows, and you know, I was so engulfed in that world that for me it really felt like the right thing to do. If I'm really honest though, like, it has completely distorted my body image because I never feel lean enough. January this year, so actually just after Christmas, I decided I was going to challenge myself again. Didn't feel like I wanted to step on stage again because of what I've just mentioned. And also, if I'm really honest, like, it took over my life, and I'm not willing to let my clients or service suffer, or my brain energy or like energy suffer. I'm not willing to be a horrible, grumpy, exhausted, tired human being. So for me, this cut was very much like, what can I do and how good can I look in a sustainable manner that isn't going to burn me out and make me feel terrible on, you know, no carbs and all the cardio. I just don't have the time and energy, and for me it's not a priority, so I didn't want to do that. So I decided to go on a diet, got my boyfriend to help me out. I'll maybe do a separate episode at some point about being coached by your partner. There's definitely pros and cons, there are pros and cons, but we've made it work, and we're still together, so that is the key, and he did really well. I think it was more my end of struggling to listen to my partner, which is interesting because I've worked with a lot of coaches. I'm quite a firm believer in coaching, so I've invested over the years in loads of coaches. Some amazing, some horrendous, and I think this is I'm very good with authority. Like, when someone tells me to do something, I'll do it. Whereas this is the first time that I really questioned. Like, he'd tell me to do something, and I'd be like, in the politest way possible, you're my boyfriend, piss off. But he wasn't. He was also trying to be my coach. But anyway, I think we lost, for the first shoot, maybe 8 kilos, I think about 8 kilos or so, and I felt good, I felt lean, I felt a difference. There was a bit of nerves, and there was a bit of, I'm not as lean as I used to be, obviously, you know, I'm bigger than I was, all this, but I think generally speaking I felt alright, and I wasn't nervous. I've done quite a few shoots. I did a show where I was actually prancing around in a bikini naked all day. What they don't tell you when you do a show as well, you've got to do your spray tan butt naked. So I stood there, butt naked, with everything hanging out, bending over, because you've got to bend over to get the tan. So I feel like since that moment, like, being naked, being half naked, doesn't really faze me. Like, it just doesn't anymore. That just cured any insecurities around being half naked. But yeah, so the shoot went well, I got photos back and it was good, and like, I've always had a niggling part of my brain that's like, oh yes, but this part could have been leaner, or this bit could have been bigger, or you should have done more on this bit. I've always been quite self-critical, which has obviously led to some of the eating disorders and previous behaviour. And then I had 3 weeks before my last shoot, I did struggle on this one. I think I struggled post the first shoot, a bit of bloating. We had manipulated water a bit, so I was like a little bit dehydrated and just didn't feel great. It was Easter. I had a bit of chocolate, nothing crazy, but I did have some chocolate over Easter because, again, I didn't want this to be a diet that like took over my whole life. And if I'm honest, I love Easter chocolate, so I had some chocolate. But I just went into the last shoot and it was a mixture of work stress because I decided to move out. I don't know why. It was a horrendous decision, but we did it. I was flying out to Dubai. Travel always makes me a bit bloated. And the first few days I felt terrible. Now this is where the honesty comes in. That week in Dubai, I had a great time. I love Dubai. I love the heat. I'm here for it. I would move there in a heartbeat if I could. But I struggled with comparison. On the first day, I went to a beach club, which is also out of my comfort zone because I am such a hermit, like such a hermit. And I'm also trying to be sober, so it was quite a challenge, but I did manage it. But the girls that were there were all stunning, like absolutely stunning. And two of them had done shoots that day, and all of them were a lot smaller than me, a lot more petite than me. Now, something I've always struggled with is feeling quite big. I've always felt like quite a big girl because I'm quite tall. I've never, like even at my tiniest, when I was severely underweight and completely ill, I still had bigger shoulders. Like I'm just a bigger person. And so I really suffered being in a bikini next to these girls. And to be fair, being in a bikini for me is still a very relatively new thing. It's only been the last few years because I never would have worn one. So I always, even though like I said, I'm never that conscious now of being naked or in a bikini, it's still a new thing. It's still a new thing for me to be in a bikini because I never used to be comfortable wearing one. So I was bloated, I was drinking a lot of water because I knew I had the shoot coming up. And I felt terrible. I did not feel good. The photos came back and I felt like I looked the biggest, and I was really struggling with comparison, like probably the worst I have done in so long because these girls were shredded. And even though I know logically that they are all a lot smaller girls than me and they all have different body types and different backgrounds and all of this and different start points, like I know I'd worked hard for the last 10 weeks and yet I still felt like I looked terrible. And that voice in my head really got to me. And I messaged my boyfriend being like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this shoot in 2 days. Nope, not happening. And if I'm honest, only 2 things made me do the shoot. Number 1, I would not like to let the photographer down because I'm self-employed. It's shit when people let you down. I don't want to be that person. And number 2, I posted about it on Instagram, and I feel like if I then told people I wasn't doing it, they'd be like, oh, Liv's chickened out. And that fear drove me forward. But I really suffered those few days. I really was in my own head. I didn't feel comfortable. I felt bloated and gross and just not good about myself. And it was actually a really horrible feeling because I've, like I said, not necessarily felt great in my body for a while, but I'm very neutral. Like I normally don't have many thoughts about my body. Like I've got other things to worry about. Like I'm pretty good. I know I eat well, I move well, I'm strong, all of this. Like I don't day to day get upset with my body, but I did. I really, really struggled, and I have not felt as anxious or self-critical or full of doubt as I have for that shoot for anything. Not a powerlifting meetup, not even my first photo shoot. I was scared, but I wasn't at any point like self-critical. I honestly was in a spiral for those few days, and I think that's the incredible thing, because I tell clients every single fucking day to stop comparing themselves to others and not worry. And this is a good example of, even when you know these things, and even when you know it in the deepest part of your heart and brain, it can still be an issue and it can still flare up, and it did. Absolutely. I had so much imposter syndrome. I felt fat. I felt horrible. I did not feel good in my skin, and that made it really hard. Like on the day of the photo shoot, I honestly just wanted it to be done. I wanted it to be done. I didn't even want to do it, and I've never felt so uncomfortable and awkward ever. Probably like only that I can remember. Like even when I was overweight, even when I was severely underweight, I felt so awkward and horrible. Like I did not enjoy it. And the photographer was amazing, and I'm not faulting him at all because he was actually so lovely and so good. And I don't know if he knew if I was nervous or not, like I'm not sure, but inside I just wanted it to be done. I wanted to go home. I didn't want to be there. I did not want to be there on this beautiful sunrise in Dubai. Like I'm so lucky that that's what I was able to do, and yet every fibre of my being was trying to hit the eject button. Anyway, I did the shoot, got the photos back yesterday. And it again brought up a few things where I was like, oh, I wasn't that lean. Oh, I could have tensed this more, done this more. Oh, I should have water cut more. I should have eaten less this. Oh, I'm a bit bloated. You know, I had all these thoughts and feelings. And actually, when I take all of those things out, I actually looked good. I did look good. And you know what? Some of the photos are beautiful. Like, I look great. And it's mad how our brains work. And I think for me, this has been a really interesting time because, like I said, I haven't had things that trigger me like this before. I haven't really had things that make me feel as like full of self-doubt. I haven't had things where I don't day to day compare myself to anyone because I know there's no point in that. But something about comparing myself to these other online coaches in Dubai really triggered me, and it really brought up a lot. So I think the whole point of this whole, another thing, my boob job, another interesting change. Since my boob job last year, I also haven't felt small. Even when I've been probably as lean as I would have been pre-boob job and felt lean, I now don't feel lean. And there's something about having fake boobs that makes you feel bigger. And that's not really something I'd thought about. Now, for those of you that don't know, I didn't really get the boob job because I didn't have boobs. I had got the boob job because I had to have part of my left breast cut away. So I got the boob job for like not really an aesthetic reason. Well, I guess it was. I wanted to make sure I didn't have uneven boobs. And I love them. I love my fake boobs. They're great. But you feel bigger. And that's an interesting thing as well. So I felt bigger than all these other girls. And part of that was down to the breasts, which is really interesting. Just thought I'd put that out there. But anyway, the whole point of this like ramble where I've just self-indulged and in a slightly narcissistic way just told you every thought and feeling I've had is because I know if you looked at these photos out of context, I'm posing in a bikini with a giant fake ponytail with Dubai in the background, you'd be like, that girl loves herself, or that girl, she's confident, or that girl's probably never been out of shape in her life, or that girl's probably just walked into the shoot. What you do not know or see is the fact that the night before I almost cried with anxiety. I did not sleep well for days before that shoot because I was so anxious. And I honestly felt very close to having a panic attack. And I've not had a panic attack in years. I honestly did not want to be there. And I felt so uncomfortable in my skin. Now again, looking back, the photos are great. I look good. The background's stunning. Like, it's all a good vibe. But you would not tell that. And this is the interesting thing with social media and comparing yourself and all these things. You have no idea what someone's going through. I've had it with clients before where some of my clients have done photo shoots and they look incredible. They've got abs, they've got amazing tone, they look amazing, beautiful. And other clients will be like, oh, I don't look like that. Or, you know, I'm nowhere near that. Or I'd love to look like that, but that's just not me. And what they don't realise is that person that's on that photo shoot also doesn't feel good. They've also had their own things going on. They might be going through a divorce or a breakup or a really difficult time at work or a difficult time in their body. Like, you have no idea what someone is going through. So the next time that you start to compare yourself or get in your own head, just remember this story, because remember that, like, I'm an online coach. I spend all day, I work 7 days a week telling other women and trying to get other women to feel good in themselves, and yet those were a few days that I could not get myself to feel good in myself, even with a toolbox and years of therapy and experience and all these things I know I could have done and did do. I could not get out of my own head, and I think that's okay. But you know what, the one thing that I will hold myself and my hands up to is I'm not a quitter. Like, I wanted to quit. I really wanted to quit. It would have been probably easier to quit because I would have felt a lot better immediately. But I'm so proud of myself for not quitting, because that would have been the easy option, but not the best option. The best option was to do the photo shoot. I've learned a lot about myself and my triggers and my body image and stuff I still want to work on, and that's okay. But I would have not learned any of that if I'd quit. And I think a lot of people quit before, or quit when things get hard, or quit when things are slightly uncomfortable, or quit when you're being forced out of your comfort zone. And I get it, because again, I would have loved to quit at most of those points, but I didn't. And I think this is a really good reminder that actually just sometimes not quitting is the win. Not quitting and not giving up is what will get you further in life than anyone else, or get you further than you ever thought you could be. You know, 15-year-old Liv, very, you know, in and out of hospital for anorexia, sat in a room of group therapy with other girls and boys suffering with anorexia, genuinely didn't think I'd make it to 18. I was suicidal and depressed, and I did not see a way out, and I did not see myself getting to 18. And now I'm 26, going on very soon 27, which actually feels really scary. and I just done a half-naked beach shoot in Dubai, and I help hundreds of women, and I love my job and my life, and you know, all of this I've only got to because I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and I didn't give up. And there's been so many times and so many different times in my life I wanted to give up. And this was actually really one of them, which is mental, because in the grand scheme of things, like, I've done a lot of photo shoots. It really shouldn't have been scary. I've done a beach shoot half naked before. Like, it's mental. But something about this whole thing just really triggered me. So I'm good, by the way, before anyone else will get loads of messages like, are you sure you're okay? I'm good. I'm good. The photo shoot is done. I'm going into a bit of like a health phase, I think. So I've started running. I'm doing reformer Pilates because apparently I'm that girl now. I don't think I'm going to hold up forever because it is pricey, and also it is a bit inconvenient at times. But it's quite nice for me to go and do something because I never do something for myself. Like, I wake up, I work, and then I go to bed, and I repeat. And I love my job and my life, but I think even just carving out that 1 hour a week for me is really important. So I'm seeing it more as like a mental health benefit rather than anything else, really. But yeah, I'm doing that. I feel like I'm going to get back into the gym, lift heavy weights, probably try and maintain similar sort of body fat percentage over summer. Might try and lean up a little bit more, might do a shoot later in the year. Maybe I'll test myself and really hit the fuck it button and try and do another beach shoot in Dubai next year. Who knows? But yeah, I think for now, health and wealth is the goal. That's the main goal, just wellness and feeling good in my skin and working on that. But yeah, it is mental how these things come up, and it's mental that people don't really talk about it or share it. And I think it would have been very easy for me to just post my pictures like, look at me, I'm in Dubai, looking great, living the dream. But that wasn't the reality, and I just wanted to share that. So yeah, shout out to Fit Visuals who did the shoot. Amazing guy, amazing photographer, and he did make me feel really comfortable. It was, yeah, a really nice shoot. But what was going on in my head wasn't, and that's okay because we're all human. So anyway, hopefully you listen to this. I felt slightly inspired that you'll get through the down parts of any journey, all the difficult parts, all the challenging parts. No one you compare yourself to has their shit together like you feel like they do. No one that you compare yourself to doesn't struggle, because we all do. We all have good and bad times, and that's okay. And that's why myself and Taylor are very compassionate coaches. Like, we're not afraid to kick you up the arse when you need it. But first and foremost, we get it because we're human and we also struggle at times, or have struggles. So try and work with someone that gets it, I think, is the key, because a lot of people are slightly more robotic and maybe haven't struggled, but being with someone or coach with someone who really does get it and really has been there, I think is really powerful, because we do get it. Anyway, I'm just now rambling. I need to go make lunch. I hope you have a lovely day, and hopefully you found this slightly not very factual or like valuable in terms of information, but hopefully kind of interesting to hear from a coach's perspective of something that actually was a real challenge, and something that really has hopefully now built my confidence and discipline and all these things even more, because I've done it and I've shown up, and that's a huge win for me. So have a lovely day. If you have any questions or want to ask more about the shoot or go and see obviously the photos, then please head over to my Instagram at live_coach. And we are probably closing our books in the near future, I should say. So if you want to work with us, myself and or Taylor, please go and drop either one of us a DM. Check out the results on our pages as well, the testimonials, get a good vibe of what we do and who we are. But yeah, very limited spaces before we shut. So if you want to work with us, now is the time. Go and look at the photos, listen to where I'm at, and hopefully you'll have a really lovely rest of your day.